Okay, so for our next lesson, playing off of addition and subtraction, now we're going to talk about inequalities with multiplication and division. The reason I split these up is that these inequalities have a special property when certain things happen. So we're going to be solving in the same way, but we're going to be using multiplication and division. So, sorry I didn't have good directions for example 1, but I'll explain it. Same as before, solving and graphing our solutions. So, x over 8 is greater than negative 5. To solve that, x over 8 is x divided by 8. The way I would isolate x is I would multiply both sides by 8. So that means this would be x is greater than negative 40. I'm undoing that division. So to graph this, I'm just going to plot a number line with 3 points, negative 41, negative 40, negative 39, open circle, and since it's greater than, I'm going to shade, I'm just going to keep this red for this if I can. I'm going to shade to the right because it's greater than. Next inequality, I have negative 24 is greater than or equal to 3x. I would solve that by dividing both sides by 3 to undo that multiplication. So this becomes negative 8 is greater than or equal to x. And like we were doing before, I'm going to flip everything around. This really means x is less than or equal to negative 8. That is an important thing. So for me to graph this one, 3 points, negative 9, negative 8, negative 7. It's less than or equal to, so that means a closed circle. And less than, I am going to shade to the left. So I'm shading on the left of that inequality. Okay? So, either multiplication or division right now. That's all we're focusing on. You got to know whether to multiply or divide. So the guided practice, I'm giving you 4 problems. Basically, pause the video. When you're ready, resume it. I'll flash my answers on the screen, and I won't explicitly explain every single one. This is more for you to check and see where you're at, if you're understanding it or not. If you're not understanding it, ask questions. I'm going to probably explain one of them because I know one of them we might have trouble with, and I think you guys already know which one. So take a second, work through them, and then check your answers in a few seconds when I show them on the screen. Okay, so here's a chance for you to take a minute, double check your answers, compare them with mine. If you think I made a mistake, let me know, okay? The only one I really want to explain through more in depth is number 2 with the fraction, all right? 1/5. The way I eliminate 1/5 from that side, when you eliminate a fraction, you are multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/5 is 5 over 1, which is really just 5. So multiplying both sides by 5 eliminates the 1/5. If that were 2/5, I would multiply both sides by 5 over 2, the reciprocal. Okay? So if it's 1/4, to eliminate that, multiply both sides by 4. Okay? So now, this is the part that's important for this lesson, is multiplying or dividing by negative numbers. This changes things, literally. So, for the first example in these types of problems, I'm going to rewrite it so I have room. And I want to use red. 2 is less than y over negative 3. Okay? For this one, I'm not going to graph it because I want to more explain why this does what it does. All right? So I'm going to kind of hold off on the graphing for A and B here. So to solve this, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3. So this becomes negative 6 is greater than y. And I'm going to write it as y has to be less than negative 6. And if you notice what happened, this inequality symbol was less than. After I did my operation with a negative number, it's greater than. So the thing I want you to remember for this is that when you are solving an inequality and you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, you flip the sign. And the main thing here is, I'm going to show this for two different possible solutions to show. So I'm saying solutions have to be less than -6. So I'm going to plug in a number less than -6, see if it makes it true. So I'm just going to choose a number off the top of my head that's less than -6. I'm going to pick -9. -9 divided by -3 creates 3. That is true. So that makes y is less than -6 true. Okay? Now, if I tried this and I picked a number greater than -6, a number greater than -6 off the top of my head is -3. -3 divided by -3 would show this as 2 is less than 1, making this not true. This is true. Using numbers that are less than -6. So flipping the sign changes everything, okay? So dividing or multiplying by a negative, you have to flip that sign around. It changes the truth of that inequality. So in example B here, dividing both sides by -7, I still have y, but it's now going to be greater than or equal to positive 5. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So right here, if you want, I'm going to show this, 4, 5, and 6. And I graph this to the right, all right? So what you can do, if you're not sure if your solution is an actual solution, test a point that's part of your solutions. For this, test the number 6. See if it makes the inequality true. Test the number 4. See if it makes the inequality true. Whatever side makes the inequality true is the side you shade, is the side that's your solutions. So we're going to get some practice checking solutions too. So the guided practice, again, work through it. Check your solutions with me in a minute after you're done pausing the video and ready to go. Okay, so this guided practice, 5 and 6, multiplying for both of them, multiplying by a negative. I just want you to notice that you flip that sign when you multiply or you divide by a negative number, okay? So these both became greater than symbols. And then here again, I know the backside. It's fine if you didn't do these yet. I want you to try these 4. Take a minute, pause the video, work through them, and then check your answers with me, all right? Okay, so to explain these, I'm really just going to explain number 7. So, because number 7 is a fraction. So, all these, I flipped the signs. I made sure I wrote them correctly. In number 7, I had -1/10, so I multiplied both sides by -10. And that caused the sign to flip. And so to write the inequality with the variable on the left, I flipped that sign around again. So I got z is greater than or equal to -10. So that's the only one I wanted you to look out for because of the fraction. Moving to example 3. This is a good one to talk about an inequality and setting it up. It says you earn $9.50 an hour at your summer job. Write and solve an inequality that represents the number of hours you need to work to buy a digital camera you want that costs $247. So, right here, numbers of hours you work. Number of hours, I guess that's bad grammar. I'm going to use H to represent hours. So I need an expression that represents my earnings. That expression I would write $9.50 times the number of hours. And I want to buy this camera. So that means I want to make that much or more. An inequality represents that is greater than or equal to $247. So that's my inequality. $9.50 times the number of hours I work. I'm going to divide both sides by 9.5. The number of hours I work has to be greater than or equal to. Just give me a second. I need to work 26 hours or more. Okay? I need to work at least 26 hours to make enough for the camera. So these guided practice, pause the video, work through them, and then check in with me. Okay, so for these final two problems, number 11, I underlined some keywords in each of these. In 11 it says at most. You have at most $3.65 to make copies, and each copy costs 25 cents. So that inequality, first of all, I define my variable of C being the copies I can make. So to represent the cost for those copies, I would take 25 cents times the number of copies. And that amount is going to be my total cost, which has to be less than or equal to $3.65. So that's an important thing to understand. When I say at most, that means less than or equal to. So then all I have to do is divide both sides by 25 cents, and I get the number of copies has to be less than 14.6. So the highest amount of total copies I can make is 14. I can't make 0.6 copies, so I'm going to say I can make at most 14 copies. In the second one, it's a little tricky. It says the maximum speed limit for a school bus is 55 miles per hour. Write and solve an inequality that represents the number of hours it takes to travel 165 miles. So I use time to represent the number of hours, and if we remember, distance equals rate times time. Well, your rate, your speed, if you think of speed, miles per hour, that's your distance divided by your time. So that's what I used. I took my distance, 165, divided it by my time, t, and that had to be a speed of less than or equal to 55. So I kind of solved this in a little bit of an unorthodox way. I multiplied both sides by t. So I got 165 is less than or equal to 55t. To make it look more familiar, I divided both sides by 55. I got 3 is less than or equal to t, meaning t is greater than or equal to 3. So traveling at that speed or less, it would take me at least 3 hours. It could take me longer if I travel slower than 55 miles per hour. So it's important to read keywords, know what I mean when I say at least or at most, and then know how you set it up using multiplication or division. So now it's a good time for you to move on to the practice and then the checkpoint. You're probably going to be able to start lesson 3.4, and then once you're finished with lesson 3.4, you should be ready for the quiz on the first half of this unit.